Hello everyone, my name is Liz and I have a small business called Letter Me. I've been teaching Cricut workshops since 2018 and in that time I've had the joy of guiding thousands of students both in person and online throughout Australia and around the world. It can be daunting and intimidating as a beginner using a brand new and exciting machine, but it doesn't have to be that way. Join me for a fun, hands-on session where we'll complete 2 easy step-by-step projects that will kickstart your Cricut journey from mug to caravan and everything in between. My very first ever Cricut project. Well, the very first thing I created on a Cricut machine was actually with my friend who owned a Cricut machine way before I did. I needed to cut wafer paper butterflies for a cake I was making, and she pretty much did it all for me whilst I watched. So I guess that doesn't really count, but it inspired me to buy my own Cricut machine. And then when I bought my first Cricut machine, the very first project I made was a mug. Now, it may have been super simple, but it taught me a very powerful lesson that I still share with all of my students today. The same technique that I used on a mug can be scaled up to almost any vinyl project, even decals for trucks and caravans. So I tell my students to always start with a small object. If you can do something small, you'll be applying the same techniques to a large size project. You can overcome any fears or doubts you may have by doing something small first, and then master the application before moving on to much larger things. So to start you all off today, we're going to be doing 2 designs, both small. The first thing we're going to be doing is applying vinyl to a mug, and the second one will be applying iron-on to a baby onesie. Now, a little bit about the materials. For something that's smooth and flat, like a mug, I generally use vinyl. Vinyl has a sticky side that will adhere to the smooth and flat surface, and you can get permanent vinyl or removable vinyl. Permanent vinyl obviously won't come off. You can pop it in the dishwasher. And removable vinyl for things that you do want to remove. So something like a decal for sale sign on a car. On a mug, I would typically use permanent vinyl. Now for a baby onesie, or pretty much a t-shirt, a hat, anything that won't melt under an iron or an easy press, I would be using iron-on, or otherwise known as heat transfer vinyl. When correctly applied, iron-on will be stuck on permanently, and you can pop it in the wash over and over and over again and it won't come off. Now, how do you tell the difference between vinyl and iron-on? Vinyl has grid lines on the back that helps with your application. Also to help you with your application is transfer tape, which also has grid lines. So grid lines and grid lines. Whereas iron-on doesn't have any grid lines, so no need for transfer tape. It's actually got a heat-proof carrier on top that will not melt under the heat of an easy press, and it will help you with transferring your design to your garment. Okay, so I'm going to log into Cricut Design Space. I've deliberately chosen a mug with flat sides for our beginners project so that we don't have to worry about curving our vinyl, and I don't want to overwhelm ourselves on our very first project. To make things simpler also, I'm going to choose a project with one single vinyl colour. I'm going to choose white, and I'm going to choose a simple design from Cricut Design Space. I'm going to choose a design that's around coffee and crafting. So I will type in coffee, craft, and see what it comes up with. Okay, so there's a lot of designs I can choose from, but we're going to make it nice and simple today. I really like this one, Coffee Crafting Crime Shows. And I'm going to customize it to make sure that it fits perfectly on my mug. As we all know, different mugs come in different sizes. This mug is shallower but quite wide. So the template they've given us, and I can use 2 fingers to drag it across without changing the actual dimensions. Now the template they've given us is a 10 centimeter in height mug. Okay, I'm going to measure mine. My mug, I would say, is about 8 centimeters high. I wouldn't really count the bottom edge, as I'm not going to ever stick a design on the bottom. We wouldn't see it anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this plus button there. And that gives us all the different options to add to our design. All I want to do is add a template. So it's given me a whole range of templates to choose from. I'm going to look for the mug template. Click on mug. And it gives me 3 options. Obviously, there are a lot of other size mugs, but I've got 3 options to choose from. I'm guessing my mug is about 300 mils. I'm going to click on that. So what it's telling me is a 300 ml mug is about 7 centimeters in height. I know that I said 8, but 7 centimeters would be perfectly fine for me as well, because I'll keep my design to that height. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to close that screen. I'm going to delete that template. So now what it's telling me is that it wants to cut out 2 of the same designs. I know I only want 1. So I'm going to go click on that one and I'm going to delete it, leaving me with just the one. And now I'm going to see if it will fit on my template. Yes, it just fits, so it's perfect. If you wanted to resize it, you can resize it that way. Alternatively, if you click on edit, you can resize it by the exact measurement that you want. Since this is a beginner's tutorial, we're not going to worry too much about this template. What this template is showing me is that this is the middle line. So if I'm looking at the mug, that's the middle line there. The design that I want, because I'm right-handed, I just want it here. I'm not going to worry myself about the back or the handle. So I just need to know that my design fits into these parameters. Okay, we're ready to make now. I'm going to bring up my screen so we can see it better. Now to make our project, we simply click on Make on the top right-hand corner. This brings up the load type. Today we're going to be making our project on a mat that is 30.5 centimeters by 30.5 centimeters. So click on that and confirm. What you see on the next screen, the mat screen, is very important. What you see, you must really love and be happy to cut, because what you see in terms of design and size will be cut. So if I zoom in for you, I can see that the vinyl size will be 8 centimeters in width by 5 centimeters in height. I know that if I cut a piece of vinyl that size and stick it to my mat on the top left-hand corner as shown on the mat screen, I know that it's going to be cut perfectly. Now, once I'm happy with that, I click on Next. If for any reason we're not happy with the size or the design, this is where we click Cancel to go back to the canvas to change our design before cutting. Okay, so now we're going to set our material. It's really important that we choose the exact materials so that our Cricut machine knows the exact depth it needs to cut. So I'm going to click on All Materials on the right-hand side to bring up more options. I'm now going to use the search function to look up premium vinyl. There are lots of premium vinyl options, but mine's the first one, premium glossy, so I'm going to click on that. I'm now going to stick it to my mat. Where there's a hole on the top, you know that they're talking about inches. I'm going to be using centimeters today. So I'm going to turn my mat around and then I'm going to stick my piece of permanent vinyl to my mat. Now I'm going to turn on my Cricut machine. Pop my mat in, making sure that it's within the guides. And then click on Insert. And then cut. Once it's finished cutting, I can release my mat, take it out, close close my machine. I can then remove my project. So now we're going to weed our design, which simply means we're going to remove all the parts we don't want from our design off our project. So simply peel off your permanent vinyl slowly, making sure that you've got all the dots and exclamation marks and everything you want to keep on your design. Full stops. There we have it. I'm going to use a weeding tool and pull out all the centers from my letters. The middle of the E, center of the A, G, and O. So the next step is to transfer your design onto your mug. The easiest way to do it is with a piece of transfer tape. So I'm going to remove the transfer tape from the backing. And this is where I like to make sure that I align my design with the grid lines, because this is going to help me with transferring my design on straight onto my mug. So I like to see that the letters align it to the straight lines going horizontally. There we go. Now, using a burnishing tool or a scraper, I make sure that my design is adhered to my transfer tape. Turn it upside down, and I'm going to peel off the backing paper. And now my design is perfectly stuck onto my transfer tape. Now, to make sure that my design goes straight onto my mug, and by that I mean I want it to go horizontally perfectly and not a bit diagonal, I'm going to make sure that the top rim of my mug aligns with one of these lines on the transfer tape. When I'm happy with the alignment, I can start running my finger down the center and then spreading my design out. Once everything is straight and I'm happy with that, I use my burnishing tool or my scraper again and scrape my design on nice and firmly. Material, you want the shiny side facing down. Now I'm going to simply peel off my transfer tape. And there we go, our first design on a mug. And if you can do this, remember what I said earlier, you can always scale your projects up and you can make much larger designs. But nice and simple to start with, coffee, crafting, and crime shows. Okay, our next project, we're going to be ironing on a design onto a baby's onesie. Instead of choosing a pre-designed project from Cricut Access, let's design something from scratch. I'm going to design a onesie for my cute as a button nephew. And so I'll click on the plus to start a new project, and now plus to add a design. I'm going to go into template and I can see baby bodysuit. Click on that, and this would be for a 1-year-old baby. So I'll click 9 to 12 months. Okay, I'm going to close the templates and have a look at what they've given me. Okay, so one thing that I always tell people to remember is that yes, it's a cute and small design, but we don't want to stretch our design from seam to seam because obviously babies are 3D. We only want to see what's on the chest and not on their side. The design is about 13 centimeters. If I'm going to measure this, 14 centimeters is about there. I would say I would prefer my design to be about 13 centimeters so that it's just sitting in the chest area. Okay, I'm going to show you my screen again. I'm going to click on the plus sign to bring up the options. I'm going to add some text, cute as a button. I'm typing cute and now minimizing the keyboard and selecting font to change the font. I'm envisaging something cute and handwritten. There are literally thousands of fonts to choose from, so I'm going to speed up this video. Okay, I like this one. I'm now going to drag the corners to resize my font. Now I'm going to repeat the steps, typing as a, and again, I'll choose a font for this. Okay, nice. Resizing this as well. Repeating the steps for the third time, adding button. Great. Okay, resizing this as well. Now that I'm happy with the writing, I'm going to add an image. So I'm going to go to add image, and I'm going to look for a button. There are so many images to choose from, but I want to keep mine simple like that. I'm now happy with how my design's laid out onto the onesie. So what I'm going to do is I don't need the template anymore. I'm going to go into my layers panel, which is on the top right hand corner. And then I'm going to hide the template and just have my design there. I think it's looking quite cute, but I'm going to add some color to my design. I'm going to keep all my writing intact by highlighting it all and then welding it together. So click on Actions, Combine, Weld, then Done. And now I'm going to change the colors all at the one time by going to Edit, clicking on that black circle. I'm going to change the writing to a light blue. Going to change the button to red. And then I might actually do an offset around the letters. Highlight that, go to offset, make it a bit bigger, too much. We'll try that, click on Done. And make the offset a darker blue. Okay, now I'm ready to make. Save, cute as a button, save to the cloud. So I'm going to need a light blue iron-on, about 14 centimeters across, 14 centimeters in height. There we go. And do the same for the other iron-ons. Then we click on Next. Choose Everyday Iron-On. Design Space automatically turns Mirror on for iron-on and infusible ink. And that's what we want for iron-on, so that's good. The mat is showing red, and so I'm going to use my red iron-on first of all. Going to stick my red iron-on to the top left-hand corner as per the instructions on the screen. So my next mat is showing light blue. Design Space automatically mirrors my design for iron-on. I've made sure it's iron-on, and once that's done, I eject, remove my project off the mat. Once again, mat 3, selecting Everyday Iron-On, making sure that Design Space automatically turned my mirror on for iron-on. We want our iron-on shiny side facing down. Stick it on the mat and pop it into the machine again. And press go. Once we're done, we unload the mat. Remove project off the mat. And now we're ready to weed. So when we're weeding iron on, we always weed the non-shiny side. Shiny side, non-shiny side. This is where it's been cut. So again, weeding is the process of removing the part that we don't want. Peeling it back. Removing the center of the letters. Sounds silly, but always check that you've removed all the centers and it's facing shiny side up. So we're doing the same for all the layers. We're going to remove the parts that we don't want. And remember, with iron-on, we don't need to use a transfer sheet. This clear carrier sheet is heat proof and it will act as our transfer sheet. There we go. And always check that everything lines up perfectly. Got our design. Pop that down. Pop that on top. That's how it's going to look. And then the button. Now let's get ironing. I'm now going to turn on my Easy Press 2. Click on the power. I needed it to be 155 degrees. So I'm going to click on the thermostat and increase my temperature to 155. Click on the thermostat again. And whilst it's heating up, I'm going to set up my workstation. I always protect my table with a mat. And then I'm going to warm up my onesie and also remove the wrinkles on it. Going to do the back. It just beeped, so it's letting me know that it's reached 155 degrees and the green light is on, saying that it's ready. Okay, so I'm ready. I'm going to separate my design, and the first layer to pop down is always your most furthest back layer, and for me it's my offset layer. And then pop my Easy Press on top, put as much weight down as I can on it and click the green button. Once it's ready, it beeps. I can remove my Easy Press, and with all Cricut iron-on, we wait for it to cool down before we peel. And you can start to layer your design. So my next layer is a light blue layer, cute as a button. Make sure it's centered as perfectly as you can. There we go, it looks pretty good to me. Fix this bit. Once we're ready, Easy Press back on. Press down and timer on. And then fit it under this carrier sheet so that I don't accidentally iron my iron-on onto the carrier sheet. And then I'll pop the Easy Press on it again, pressing the button, a lot of weight down. Once it's ready, it beeps. Take the Easy Press off, and again wait for it to cool down before we peel. Once everything's nice and cool, we are ready to peel. I always flip my designs around and then give it another heat on the back just to make sure everything is going to stay on forever. Turn it off. And there we have it. Cute as a button. And there we go. We've completed 2 simple designs for beginners. One vinyl design from Cricut Access and a second design from scratch using fonts and images from Cricut Access, applying an offset, using iron-on and layering our design onto a baby onesie that's as cute as a button. So both designs are small but easily scalable to make them larger projects. I hope you've enjoyed my session. I'm Liz from Let Me. Thank you for having me, Cricut Australia and New Zealand.